North Carolina. North Carolina is really, really tough. Knapp, when you look at the numbers and the metrics and the video and the usage and the strike throwing and the efficiency, very tough. I mean, that's why the guy hasn't lost. And we have our hands full. They lean on a handful of good relievers. They've got a balanced offense. They have some power. They've got a couple guys that can really run. So super regional number 6. This is a really good team. I'm happy we're home. The trip to California was a challenge, and hopefully the guys have reacclimated. That's tough, and I respect what Cal and Stanford are doing because those trips are clearly wild. But we bought the front end day, and then we didn't travel until Monday. I didn't want to try to fly all the way overnight and sit in the Atlanta airport for 3.5 hours and get back at 7 in the morning. We thought if we just traveled Monday, it might get us back on the normal clock feel a little bit easier, and you're not in airports all night. So lifted yesterday, light lift before practice today, and then game on. And we need Jamie and Joey and Wes to match it. And if we don't, it's going to be tricky because these guys are they're really good.
Link, just how did you feel like the guys handled that trip and how long you guys were over there on the West Coast and then coming back and getting back to Tallahassee late on Monday?
Well, anytime you go on the road, it's different. And none of us had ever been there. So you can't really discuss how the field plays and the wind and the dugouts and the dimensions and the hill behind home plate. It was very unique. It was fun to go to San Francisco Stadium and take batting practice, and that turned into of course, a home run derby. So then, as you're watching this and you're coaching, you're like, man, is this good or bad? But I thought that was really cool that they supported our efforts to be on the field, and having Buster on your side clearly helps that. But we won the series, and we didn't play well on Saturday, and they beat us, and they had 2 really good arms, and they're a competitive team, and the wind was blowing in like we hadn't played in that kind of wind before, and it was different. So we were fortunate to get out of there and win the series. And anytime you go on the road and win a conference series, it is a good accomplishment. So now that we're back, it is weird, and your body takes a little time to reset. So I think today we'll be back in order. Yesterday was an awkward feeling, but I think today they're back at it. And I'll see the team here in a minute, but they wanted to do some light lifting, and we're having some food for them before practice. And we'll have an earlier day, and then North Carolina will practice like at 6 o'clock. So tough, tough part of adding those teams, but neat experience. San Francisco was neat, and then playing Sunday and being done a little earlier gave the guys a chance to venture out a little bit and see some things that you normally would have no chance to see if you flew back right after the game. So I think they enjoyed it. The difficulty, it is what it is.
Link, you enter the last weekend of ACC play. I think a half game up in the conference standings, a pretty tight race at the top. Obviously, probably a top 4 is maybe the most important thing, and obviously a top 8 in the NCAA tournament. But do you talk at all about? I mean, I think it's been 13 years since you've won an ACC regular season title. Do you talk about that at all, or is it just game by game and that's the focus?
Game by game. That's the way to. I haven't looked at it. I couldn't tell you what's going on in the standings or rankings or any of that. Now, when I'm involved in the committee selection, those are some tough 6 or 7 years, and I was happy to be able to put that down for a while because there's so much that goes into that when you have to deal with that day in, day out, and it's hard. So the fact that I'm not on that even lets me back out of it more, and I want to get the most out of each player. And then when it's a team event, I want to get the most out of the team. So that's what I look at. And when the dust settles and the last pitches have been thrown, you hope that you've done enough to position the team to be the best they can be. And if the best they can be is win the ACC regular season, so be it. If it's 8th place, you got the most out of them and you're in 8th place, so be it. that's how I approach it. The standings and the excitement and the rankings and all that stuff, I don't think that impacts the game. And when you start to bleed those things into what's going on, I think they lose focus on the details of the game and preparation and practice and those sort of things. And I do not want that accumulation of lack of attention to what's going on at the moment to enter the program. Now they know, like the guys know how important the series is. They know that, but the rest of it, we try to play well from day one, and we'll try to play well tomorrow. That's how I look at it.
How good was it to see Wes throw 5 quality innings and get the W on Sunday, and also just having 3 guys in the rotation stay the same all year? Just how much of a luxury is it knowing the 3 guys that you're going to have going into every weekend?
Yeah, don't know that I've ever had it. Knock on wood. It's tricky. And when Wes is in that zone and can mix the stuff enough, I thought his fastball was really good. And we've seen the velocity the last couple of weeks actually maybe trend up. And when he stays aggressive with it, it does have life. And I think that's the key. And then the other 3 secondary pitches, however, Micah and he feel like it works best based on feel and then maybe hitter weakness, he was able to do it. And he's athletic and handles his position well and does some of the intangible parts of the art of pitching at a high level, which helps. I thought he did a better job of when he needed to manage some potential problems within the outing to keep things in check. I thought he's done a better job of that. And you just don't want to stack walk hit. Like you got to at some point snuff it out and get a big punch out, get a double play, get a pop up to keep the efficiency of the outing in check. I thought he's done a better job of that.
The way that Joe's thrown the ball recently out of the bullpen, just how much of a pick me up has that kind of been for that group as a whole?
Huge. The consistency of the depth. We have good depth. And, you look at North Carolina, too. They have 22, 20, 19 appearances, and we have a similar thing. And how you use those appearances, it matters. And when Joe's consistent, what we've seen is it can lengthen out a little bit when he's on it. And you might get 2 and 3 inning and 4 inning appearances when he's on it. So that matters. And there have been other times where some of our guys, maybe it hasn't been quite as consistent, where the appearance itself isn't maybe as long as we had hoped. So like what he did on Sunday to come in and immediately fastball command and the good breaking ball, huge. These situations, as we get into the stretch of this, you don't have the luxury of easing into these relief outings or starts for that matter. You have to be in control and command and on point the moment you enter the ball game. And I thought this weekend, after maybe the first hitter he faced on Friday, like I thought he showed repeated outings. And Prescott was throwing the ball 99 miles an hour, and you could see people start to gather around the iPad because it looked like that thing may show 100. So it's good to see his stuff tick. And when you have this kind of depth and your starting pitchers have been relatively consistent, you hope that maybe it's the opposite, where the stuff starts to trend up towards the end of the year, where you don't feel like you've burned people out along the way. Maybe you start to see the scenario where the stuff gets a little bit better because there's depth and the starting pitching has been relatively consistent. It's a win for the relievers and the starters.
Coach, slightly different question, but taking you back to that Louisville series, taking that charter with softball, when you guys surprised Lonnie with those white and pink shirts, just how important was it for you to send a message that you're behind Coach in her fight?
Well, she's a spectacular human being, and we know she's facing a challenge. And in the middle of your season, to deal with what she's been dealt, thoughts and prayers with her. And that gesture by the team, being on the plane, having some of our donors on the plane. This is a tightly knit athletic department, and we all know each other. The players interact. I say this a lot, the proximity of the facilities. Like there's some places where you don't cross paths with the other athletes very often. And I've seen that side of it. I've also been at some places like Florida State where, I mean, I can see their cages. I'm looking at the football practice field. The beach volleyball girls, they walk through to the more athletic center. There's a lot of interaction and mingling that takes place. And when you feel a family member going through that, you try to do some uplifting things to just boost their spirits, because I can't imagine how challenging that is. And I think being around her team, she told me that's a huge boost for her, just to be around the girls and around the coaches and around the team and around the program, and they're playing championship softball again. So if that moment and that plane trip could give her some excitement and a good feeling, then that's exactly what we wanted to do.
You talked about going into the series not wanting to change anything with Drew because how well he was swinging it, and then he had another 4-hit game on Friday and won Player of the Week. Just what can you say about the way that he's developed as a hitter at the plate?
Well, he works very hard, and he's a student of his work. And I watch him. I see him do things to try to stay in his routine, even when the surroundings may make it difficult. And he's got a way that he likes to go about his work. And you're proud of guys that have taken ownership in their work, have applied the stuff they work on into the competition. There's a lot of people that work hard. If you can't take the stuff you're doing into the competition, then it's misguided work and you're not applying things correctly. And he's doing it. And it's fun for him to see the right-handed at-bats he's had, the improvement on recognition of secondary pitches and use of the field, and has reduced the strikeouts a little bit in a number of ways. Like there's a few ways you can see he's gone about that. Proud of him. And the things he does at second base that blend in, and the turning of the double plays and the range he has. I think that looks easy when you watch the game, but it's not easy. And he's become a complete player. Fun to watch.
Jackson hitting his first homer this season, how much of a monkey off his back do you think that is for him? And just how do you feel like he caught behind the plate on Saturday?
Thought he caught okay. Clearly, that the runner was running on the one pitch, and we didn't have a shot to throw him out, and he should have blocked that ball. That would be the only chink in the armor from the catching side. I mean, the guys just had some bad luck so far, and when you look at what he did, probably from this time in the year through Omaha last year, that pendulum swung in a really good direction for him, and maybe that's happening. He probably leads the country in lineouts, and he's had some really good at bats with nothing to show for it. His on base percentage is still, I haven't looked today, but it's got to be close to 400. I've looked a couple times, and the walk to strikeout ratio is so good. Getting hit, he finds ways on base, and that does matter. Like, it is traffic, and when this last weekend, I think he hit 8th or 9th. And when you stretch that lineup and have somebody in that position that gets on base and that then flips things over, it helps. I know he's frustrated with the statistical output that he's had with the numbers and the batting average and the power, but that's part of it. And it makes you grow and tough and learn and figure out what you have to do to get out of it. But again, it happened to him the other day. He lined out the third base. The guy jumped. He had shown bunt a couple times, and the guy still jumped and was able to catch it. So he's had some tough luck. The home run was big. We needed it. Like, going into that, it felt like it was tough to score out there the whole weekend, and his home run and Farrow's home run were big ones.